The Situm area in Morabe's Nawaib district became the exercise grounds for the 37 cadets in the PNGDF's Joint Forces Academy's senior class. After their insertion on the 25th of September, they started exercise Last Chance with the defensive operations. The cadets built gun pits, barricaded their fighting bays, establishing the defensive positions. These gun pits home for the next 14 days.
Yeah. So they sleep and then fight in this bay. So every time we make changes for Platoon Kumara and Platoon Sergeant occupies their position, and this is the fighting bay.
During this period, each cadet is assessed on their ability to apply the skills and tactics learned over the past 2 years, one key component being their ability to lead.
It is important because in order for an officer, especially during the operational times, a cadet or an officer must be able to understand the higher commander's intent, understand the situation on the ground, and make decisions based on the overall outcome of the intent high up. And he or she needs that leadership quality that needs to be taught to him or her.
For the first 8 days, the cadets were stationed in the bush carrying out their defensive and offensive operations. Tasks that involved guarding the base camps and resupplying the training camp and evacuating injured cadets on stretchers for more than a kilometer using bush tracks. While the defensive and offensive operations were set in the bush away from civilians, the stability operations that followed were set in crowded areas. This involved protecting assets, in this scenario the Situm Health Center, School and Communications Tower. These are exercises depicting real-life situations that these cadets will have to deal with when they become commissioned officers and commanders in their institutions.
Fight through!
In Papua New Guinea, the situations often dealt with by disciplinary forces involve internal security operations. These are civil disputes, protests or unrests, or events such as the national general elections. In this scenario, the cadets were transported by chopper from Situm to Unitec. Here, they conducted their crowd control exercise, an activity that involved handling a rowdy mob. These 37 cadets from the PNGDF and Correctional Service Institute are jointly trained at the Joint Forces Academy. This arrangement has its advantages, one of them being the networks formed across their institutions. It gives an insight into how the different institutions are trained to respond in situations and an understanding of their roles and areas of operations. While the offensive and defensive operations are largely based on Defense Force training, the scenarios given during the stability operations depict situations that the CIS officers are trained to respond in.
When we have a joint force college here, and when the police and CS come together, it's an institution to bind those institutions together, and it builds nationalism where we can deal with issues where it's a law and order, and when police and PNGDF wants to do the task, we already have that knowledge. Oh, I know this guy, I know this female officer, we work together, so it makes the job easier in terms of dealing with police and CSO, PNGDF outside. So networking is a big key, and also I see that in the long run it assists to nation building, where we all work together as a team, and it cuts out those issues of police is doing their own thing, PNGDF then everybody understands.
Exhausted and sleep deprived from the 14-day exercise, they had one last tasking to end the training. It was the fight and withdraw phase on the last day, which started at the break of dawn. While withdrawing from an advancing enemy party, they were tasked to carry 3 injured soldiers along the way. This was their exit from the training grounds and the start of the 26-kilometer route march back to the Igam Barracks.
Sit, you have to sit home. All right, expect you guys an hour walk.
For the past 2 years, each of these cadets have been exposed to roles of the section to platoon commanders. In the final exercise, this was tested as each of them took turns in exercising their roles as section commanders.
Officer cadet is taught how to lead as a section commander. He or she is taught the level of the basic section level in the PNGDF, which is a corporal's leadership. So that when he or she becomes a lieutenant, he or she understands that leadership at that level should have been covered. So he or she can understand what's going on at the bottom. Next, they go to the next leadership of platoon level, which is a platoon commander. And that's the one that is emphasized in our training here. He or she, the officer cadet, must be able to lead or have the qualities to lead a platoon.
While the current Joint Forces Academy is just 4 years old, the history of the college goes back to the 1970s. Prior to the college's establishment, there was the military cadet school at the Igam Barracks, providing basic military training for cadets. In 1973, the National Executive Council approved the establishment of the Joint Services Training College, which now catered for the Defense, Police and Correctional Service cadets. The college operated for 5 years until the last batch graduated in 1980. Amongst those cadets who passed out from the early JSC was former Brigadier General Jerry Singirok, former Police Commissioner Gary Baki, and the former Correctional Service Commissioner Michael Waipo, amongst others. With the demand for good leadership in the disciplinary services and the need to meet regional and cross-border security concerns, the Joint Services Training College was re-established in 2016 after 36 years.
When we came through here, the training centered around leadership and how to lead men and women of the future. So this is the aspiration.
I cannot take my old school and compare it with this one. This we anticipate to be modern in nature.
But the operations of the Joint Services Training College has been anything but smooth. When the college was re-established, then Area Commander Colonel Carl Rakone stressed that the college would need its own budget to run its operations. Funding has been a challenge for the academy for the past 4 years, and much of the support has been given by Australia through the Australian Defence Force. This is something that the JSC Chief Instructor Lieutenant Colonel John Bannock hopes will be fixed with the recent passing of the Joint Services Bill in Parliament.
So things are looking bright next year when we get the funding. They say it's about 20 million over 5 years, and that should alleviate all the problems we're facing. But currently, the previous year and this year, the challenges we face with funding to get our activities done. But we've managed with the assistance from the Australian defence staff on the ground, who have come to our aid in nearly all our activities and made sure we've produced the results that we require.
Despite these challenges, officers in the JSC have continued to conduct trainings and exercises, such as the final exercise, with limited funding and resources.
To the OC or the SI, Senior Instructor of Cadet Wing, Major Edo and his staff, they've done a really tremendous job with the little resources that they were given over the 14 days. Quite a lot of activities were conducted. They tried to use the area to create scenarios that were realistic and to expose the cadets to what we were expecting them to cover, to get them qualified. So to the staff, I take my hats off to them. They worked hard with limited resources, trying conditions, and put the cadets to their faces to come to the end of the exercise.
The current senior class is the 4th batch of intake since the Academy's re-establishment. They started with 51 cadets in 2018 and have ended with 37 cadets, amongst them 1 woman. Exercise Last Chance is crucial for these cadets, as it will determine whether or not they graduate this month. For the cadets that have passed through the academy and those yet to, the networks forged within the walls of the college will be a tool used in national joint security operations.